Now today, there are three important festivals today. Namashishtam manamapi pashajiputam patra swarupam rupam tasya krachamuri purim maturim goshtvatim Radha Kundam Kirivaram Ahoradika Mādhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Guru Tammanatosmi Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Nama Ananda Leelamaya Vigrahaya Hema Bhaddivyatschave Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Bhaktya Vihina Aparamilakse Jittas Mahamarita Kamaji Vipa Mahita Shanam Prapana Sundar Shikanda Shikar Smaraha Sumurili Manara Radhikara Sukamama Kripanidhe Supriya Charakin Korim Kuru Tavai Vasmi Najivami Toyabana Divikyaya Devitam Namam Charanantikam. First of all, I have my sustaining Dandavat Puspanjali, my heart like flowers thousands of times at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev, Asmatiya Paramaradhatama Guru Pada Padma, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Ashtotaras Tatar, Rupa Nugacari Vareshla Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Secondly, after my pranam thousands of times, at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, after my pranam to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavas, Vancha Kalpataruga Sankapasmi Priya. Shiva Gurudeva Ki. By the cosmos of Sri Gauranga, on the first day of our Vrindavan retreat, we are honoring the divine Tirabhav Tithi, the disappearance days of Śrīla Vaiṣṇava Sarvabhauma, Śrīla Jagannātha Dāsa Bābājī Mahārāja, Param Pujapad Nityalila Paristam Vishnupada Ishtora Sadashishimi Atmad Bhakti Dayāta Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja, and Sri Rāsikānanda Prabhu. So, just a few days ago, we had the fortune to be there at the Mahasamadhi of Śrīla Jagannātha Dāsa Bābājī Mahārāja and hear his glories. So I want to begin this evening with speaking something about the Jivan Charitra, the life and qualities of Param Pujyapad Srila Bhakti Dayāta Mādhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja, because I think of these three personalities, this is the one that perhaps you know the least about. Is it correct? Yes. So, first of all, Vaishnava Tattva. Chariya Vaishnava Seva Nistare Kechi Peva Keva Payechi Keva. That's what Narottam Thakur has said. That's Chariya Vaishnava Seva. If we give up the service of Vaishnavas, then Nistare Payechi Keva, then whoever was delivered from this world, it's not possible. Always, at every stage in our life, we want to have the association and serve the senior Vaishnavas, just like Śrīla Rāsikānanda Dāsa Bābājī. Today we heard in the beginning of Mukta Charita, he prayed to his Gurudev, Nama Shashtam Manamapi, this prayer that we have just said in the Mangala Charanam. Pratita Kripaya. Pratita Kripaya means abundant mercy. Gurudev, my Gurudev is so merciful. He's praying to his Diksha Guru, Yadunandan Acharya, who lived very nearby in the village of Adi Saptagram. And so in his childhood, he was under the guidance of his Diksha Guru, Yadunandan Acharya. But he's saying, by the mercy of my Guru, I received the best name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Manum, and Diksha Mantra, especially Gopal Mantra. And the association of Mahaprabhu, because when he was quite young, just after his marriage, sometime after his marriage, when he was about 20 years old, he ran away from home and came to the shelter of Mahaprabhu. Sarupam, Sri Rupam, and Mahaprabhu gave him to Swarup Damodar Gosvāmī. In fact, when Mahaprabhu left this world, then he was always continued to serve Swarup Damodar Gosvāmī, but he also quickly left. Then he was serving Gadadhar Pandit, he also quickly left. So then he came to Braja and took shelter of Sanatana Gosvāmī and Rupa Gosvāmī. Sanatana Gosvāmī after some time left, and in the end, his main guru, his Shiksha Guru was Srila Rupa Gosvāmī Pad. So we see that throughout his life, he was always seeking out the service of the most senior Vaishnavas. And you'll see also in the end of Mukta Charita, he'll pray for the association of Jiva Goswami, who is his contemporary, and also to Krishnadas Kaviraj, who is junior to him, for his association. He'll pray for his association. So this is the ideal Vaishnava life. Siddhir bhavati va neti sangsayatyuta sevinam nisangsayas tu tad bhakta paricharya ratatmanam. It is stated in Shastra that Siddhir bhavati va neti. Will a person become Siddha, perfect, or not? Sangsayatchita sevinam. If someone is serving Krishna, there's sangshay, there's a doubt about it. If you are serving Krishna, there's a doubt about whether you will attain Siddhi or not. But nisangsayas tad bhakta paricharya ratatmanam. If a person is engaged in the paricharya seva, that is personally serving a pure Vaishnava, then nisankshaya, there is no doubt at all, then that soul must attain Siddhi, perfection, by Vaishnava Kripa. So on the appearance and disappearance days of great Vaishnavas, it's necessary to hear their glories to neglect this would be an offense. So Param Pujapad Srila Bhakti Dayāta Madhav Gosvāmī was one of the great associates. Nija Seva Katara Karanjividun. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur appeared in this world like the moon, surrounded by so many stars of his eternal associates. So among those stars, one of them was Srila Bhakti Dayāta Madhav Gosvāmī Mahārāja. You can understand a tree by its fruit. So he had himself so many great Vaishnava disciples like Param Pujapad Srila Bhakti Vallabh Tirtha Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, prominent among his disciples. So when he was a young man, before joining the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's Gaudiya Math, at that time he used to work in one business that was owned by an English company in England, and they used to purchase linseeds, flax from farmers, and then package it and then send it for international distribution. So at that time, some of the workers who were in the packing process, they were, because you pack it, then you weigh it, and then you send it. So they were putting sand in some of the bags. They were diluting the seeds with sand, weighing it, and then the extra seeds that they kept, they were selling them on the black market and putting the money in their own pockets. So at that time, Srila Bhakti Dayāta Madhav Maharaj, before his sannyas, he discovered this problem, and he went to the owner of the company and he said to the manager, some of our employees are engaged in an extremely disgraceful act for their own petty self-interests. The reputation of this whole international company is being destroyed. I have made a huge mistake by blindly putting my trust in those workers. I don't even know for how long they've been doing this dishonorable act. But my ignorance cannot be accepted as an excuse. So you should call the police and have me arrested. And afterwards you can also arrest them. So then that English business owner, he was astonished by the honesty. And so he pacified him, said, oh, this is a very delicate issue. Please be assured we'll handle it most conscientiously. And so then he went to those workers and he told them that they should stop the thievery. We know, and we'll be checking. And if you do it again, then we'll have to call the police and go to jail. So he also gave a chance to them. But here we see that even in his life before coming to the Math, then he never put self-interest in front of honesty. This is a huge problem in spiritual life, that the conditioned soul is corrupt all the way through. And the main problem is duplicity. And so there is a tendency to put one's own self-interest before honesty. But we should put honesty before self-interest. Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur used to say, Saralata e Vaishnavata. Vaishnavism is simplicity, straightforwardness. So, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj, he said, my Guru Maharaj, he only had wishes for the welfare of everyone. We are today taking a feast to celebrate his disappearance day. We are taking the feast of his delicious qualities. It is powerful and purifying, or even more than Mahaprasadam. So one time, when he was working in Calcutta before joining the Math, then he had a pain in his teeth. So then one of his friends gave him, he said, try to put this, let me put this in your mouth, it will cure the pain. And he gave him some tobacco. So actually, according to Shastra, there are certain things we should not take, like alcohol. But sometimes in Ayurvedic medicine, the herbs are soaked in alcohol. So there is some leeway in the case of medicine. But anyway, he put the tobacco in his mouth, and as soon as the tobacco went in his mouth, he fell unconscious. And all his body turned blue. And so then he didn't know what to do. His friend didn't know what to do. So then his friend took him to the hospital. And then the doctor treated him, and after some time, the blue color in his body looked like he was dying, went away, and he came back into sense again. So he was so pure that just by the touch of tobacco, he became unconscious. So now the doctor didn't know what happened. And the doctor asked him, please tell us. And the doctor called the police as well. There was a policeman there. Who do you suspect tried to kill you by poisoning? We want to know who is the subject. And so then he said, the person who gave me, it was tobacco. And the person who gave me, he was my friend. He did it for my well-being. He did not have any ill intentions. So then that doctor and the policeman, they left. So then his friend came. He said, if you had mentioned my name, then I would have lost my job, and maybe I would have been put in prison also. So then Śrīla Bhakti-Dayāta Mahārāja said to him, I do not wish to be the cause of harm for anyone. I cannot falsely suspect or accuse anyone. I only want everyone's welfare. So this bhav we find in Prahlad Maharaj. Swastyastu visvasra kala prasidatam. Prahlad Maharaj here said in Srimad Bhagavatam, may there be swasti, auspiciousness for the whole universe. Kala prasidatam. And those wicked persons, they should also be satisfied. So a Vaishnava does not see friends and enemies like an ordinary person who is lost in ignorance in the world of duality. Just like Yudhishthira Maharaj himself, he was called Ajata Shatru. That means the person whose enemy was never born. There was no one born that was the enemy of Yudhishthira Maharaj. That was his mood. So when Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Madhava Gosvāmī, he came and he took shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, but he was living outside. He did not stay in the mutt. He was living in a rented house in Calcutta. So at that time, one of his relatives was an artist, and he painted a huge, beautiful painting of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and he gave it him as a gift. So then he took that big painting and he hung it in the hall of the house where he was staying. And he would sit in front of the painting of Mahaprabhu and sing kirtan with some of his god brothers. So then one day, one god brother sannyasi, Srimad Bhakti Prakash Aranya Goswami, he came to visit his home with another devotee named Shripad Kirtan Prabhu. And they were going around visiting people and collecting bhiksha, begging. So at that time, Aranya Goswami came to him and said, do you feel happy when you see this beautiful portrait of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So he said, yes, Maharaji, I feel very happy when I see this portrait. So then, that senior sannyas godbrother said to him, is it the duty of Srimad Mahaprabhu to please you by remaining present here? Or should you be the one making the endeavors to please him? So here we see something. Drigdrishya vichar. Are we seeing the deity or the paintings of Krishna, or are they seeing us? And do they exist to give us happiness? Oh, these paintings are so nice, yes. I'm enjoying being here in this beautiful art gallery. Or do we exist to please them? Is there any difference between the Supreme Lord and his Vigraha? Or his painting? Those who have transcendental vision, really, they never see any difference. So then that sannyasi, he said, oh, you have accepted Srila Prabhupada as your spiritual master. What arrangements did you make for cooking? So then Srila Bhakti Dayāta Mahārāja, he said, I've made the appointment for one Brahmin from Orissa. He will cook for me, and he is responsible for all the services in the kitchen. So then that sannyasi said, oh, have your hands been eaten by a crocodile? Why are you yourself not able to cook bhog and offer it to the Supreme Lord by yourself without the help of others? So then that other devotee was there, Shripad Kirtan Prabhu. He whispered in the ear of that Aranya Gosvāmī. He said, you should not speak to him like this. He comes from a very wealthy family. It's irrational to expect him to do all the cooking himself. He has no experience. It means he comes from a wealthy family. They had servants. Always the servants were doing the cooking. So he said, if you make these harsh statements, oh, do you like this painting? Are you serving the painting? Or Mahaprabhu is serving you? Who is cooking? Did the crocodile eat your hands? He said, if you're making such harsh statements, then he may lose his faith in the Gaudiya Math, and he may become dissatisfied with us. So even though that Sripad Kirtan Prabhu was whispering quietly, but Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he could hear everything that he was saying. So when that Aranya Goswami Maharaj heard this suggestion from the other devotee, he became even more displeased. And he said, look, if I don't tell him, then who will tell him? He's my god brother, and therefore I possess the right to say anything I want to say to him at any time. So then, when that time very young, Pujapad Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he heard these words, then he became overwhelmed with joy. Why? Because the mamata, possessiveness. You know, if children are playing in a nursery and one is making some disturbance, another one is doing this or that, then the mothers who are there, they will not become involved. But if one mother is there and it's her child, she will run and catch him. Why? Mamata, this is my child. So, this mamata is the foundation of love. So though he was being chastised, when there's no mamata, then there's tatastha bhav. Stotram yatra tatastatam prakatyats chittasya date byatam. Purnamasi Devi says, when there's a loving relationship, then if one person is very respectful to the other, then the other person will feel a little bit hurt. Why? Why is my beloved being neutral. So in Vaishnava dealings, we should be very careful. But it is a principle in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna that if there was a greater honor, then it's considered to be neutral. But if there's a relationship, then there should be some intervention. If someone will see someone doing something wrong, but they have no relation, like they don't care, then they go on doing it. So when the Pujapad Sri Aranya Gosvāmī, he saw that his younger godbrother, he had some misconceptions. Then out of love, out of mamata, he was correcting him. And understanding this, Srila Bhakti Dayāta Madhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja he became overjoyed. And he felt that the love that sannyasi showed for him was unprecedented. And he was eternally grateful for him for the rest of his life. So he learned from him that Bhagavan's name and the deity and also the portrait of the Lord, they are non-different from the Lord himself. So after receiving this, then Pujapad Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Madhava Maharaj, he always demonstrated a very high standard in this regard. And he would not allow people to frivolously just place images here and there. I have seen this with all advanced Vaishnavas. It is a habit in the West that if persons like something, then they cut it out and then they stick it on the wall and they put pictures here and there and make a whole collage. Like they're the fans of this Acharya and this deity and everything. And this is all wrong. Because how will you properly honor them? Then you'll clean your teeth and change your clothing in front of them. No, not like this. So, all the divine paraphernalia, any pictures, they should be in frames. They should be on the altar. Should be able to close the altar and open the altar. So that we don't become casual and take the divine things for granted. So, Srila Bhakti Dayāta Madhava Gosvāmī, when he would come into the mutt, then there were the paintings of the acharyas on the wall, and he would give dandavat pranam to each one of the acharyas. So, when he was working at that international business that was English owned, then he was so brilliant in his responsibilities there. He was so expert. He was never idle. He was always enthusiastic. That even though there were certain persons above him in the company, but the boss would always call for him, going over those other persons. And then after some time, when he decided, oh, I am losing my life, I should give my life completely in the service of Srila Prabhupada. And he left his job, left his business, and completely surrendered to Srila Prabhupada and came to the Sri Chaitanya Math in Navadvip. So at that time, he received a message. He received a letter from one of his colleagues with whom he used to work with in that company. And so that colleague wrote to him and said, I presume that you must now be working for a much bigger company. And you must be earning much more than you received here. Otherwise, how would it be possible for you to leave in such a hurry without telling any of us? Especially when the owner, he considered you most dear and used to call for you even in the presence of your superiors. So then Pujapad Srila Bhakti Dayāta Madhava Maharaj wrote back to him and said, what you have written is absolutely correct. Now I hold a position with a very high responsibility at a very large company. And the salary that I receive here is unimaginable. And I sincerely pray that you can bless me, that my position in this company can become permanent. So that was a very big company, not only international, but in millions of universes. It is the Namahata of Nityananda Prabhu. So an intelligent person, they will consider giving up their job, which is most insignificant, and taking a very responsible and elevated position in this greatest company in all of the universes, in which the compensation, Dastri Loivyami Purnahabikam, the compensation that Nityananda Prabhu gives to those who serve in this company is unprecedented. It is eternal. Wealth will come and wealth will go. But the Shraddha, which is given by Nityananda Prabhu as compensation for serving in his Namahata, is eternal. And it will lead to the fruit of Krishna Prem. So one time, Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Mahārāja had a friend whose name was Haridas. And he used to visit him when he was staying in that rented apartment in Calcutta before he joined the mat. And he used to come and they would sit together and do kirtan in front of that painting. Oh, can you tell the maintenance they have to fix that chandelier? Yeah, okay. So Haridas, he used to come and he would stay in Calcutta for some time. And then Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Mahārāja, he gave up that apartment and he joined the Gaudiya Math. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur sent him to Madras, to Chennai, for preaching. And then after preaching there, he came back to Calcutta. So then, when he came back to Calcutta, he went to his friend Haridas and said, Srila Prabhupada is going to speak at Calcutta University. Come on, let's go and hear the Katha of Srila Prabhupada at Calcutta University. That Haridas said to him, look, you have no one to cry after you. You are not married. You don't have any children. But I have a wife, I have a son, and I have to maintain them. If I don't think about how to maintain them, then who will? And how will they receive a good life? If I go with you to the program of Prabhupada at the University of Calcutta, it will take a lot of time. But if I spend that time earning some money for my family, then they will be better taken care of. So then Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Mahārāja, when he received initiation, his name was Hayagriva. So Hayagriva Prabhu, hearing this, he didn't give any answer. No answer. And he quickly went to go and listen to Prabhupada Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. So then, a few years later, Hayagriva Prabhu heard from one of his godbrothers that Haridas, he died in a car accident. He was killed in a car accident. And then, the day after that, it was some years after he heard this news, then Param Pujapad Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Madhava Maharaj, he'd established a new Gaudiya Math in Calcutta. And the Haridas's son, who had grown up somewhat, he came to visit the Math and have darshan of Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Madhava Maharaj. So when his son came there, he bowed down with great faith and devotion. And Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Madhava Maharaj asked him, oh, who are you and where are you from? And that young man said, I'm the son of your friend Haridas. And so then he asked him, oh, how is your family? How is your job? And spoke to him, and everything was going on well. Then he gave him some Mahaprasad, and then that young man departed. So then after he went, then Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Madhava Gosvāmī, he said, that Haridas, he used to ask, who will maintain my family if not me? But just see, his family has been maintained even after his death. Why? Because the arrangements for every individual soul and all requirements are made by Bhagavan and not by anyone else. You know, we are thinking in this world, we are supporting this person, we are helping that person. But actually, everyone is experiencing their karma, which is coming by the three modes of nature. So Srila Bhakti Dayāta Gosvāmī said, Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani savasha hankara vimudatma kartam iti manyate. Everything is going on by karma, everything is going on by prakriti, and out of the vimuddha, out of complete bewilderment, one soul is thinking, I am maintaining and supporting others. So this is the nature of Maya. You know that when birds are flying in the formation, it looks like one group. It's just one thing flying together. But every single bird has to flap his own wings. If one of the birds stops flapping, then he will fall out of the formation. The formation will continue without him. So in this world, everyone is an individual. But out of illusion, we are thinking, the ego comes, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am the seer, I am the doer, I am the maintainer of myself and the maintainer of others also. So, atogri accepta subtatta vitta janasya mohoyam aham mameti. Being bewildered by attachment in this world, we always think of I and mine and becomes surrounded by layers of illusion. This is my money, my house, my land, my property, my family, my country, my society, nation. And all these upadhis, they overtake, they color the mind completely. If that swabhava is there, if that conditioning is there, then actually we cannot remember Krishna. So it all has to be washed away. That is Chaito Darpana Marjanam, the cleansing of the mirror of the heart, where we realize I am Atma, I am transcendental, and all these upadhis are superfluous. They're not part of myself. So, now this is so deep and quite humorous. Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Gosvāmī Mahārāja said, when I came to the shelter of my Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Madhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja, to become a full-time brahmachari. So Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Mahārāja said, at that time, my heart had many knots. So we were just discussing this, these hridaya granthi, the knots in the heart, related to one's the identification with the body and mind, with the upadhis. You understand what upadhi means? Means if there's a crystal, the crystal is clear, but if you hold a rose next to it, then it will sparkle with reddish light will shine. The red color is not part of the crystal. It is upadhi. And there is adhyas, the superimposition of the quality of the rose upon the upadhi. So avidya, ignorance. Avidya is the Shakti of the Lord that does adhyas, the superimposition of external characteristics which are nothing to do with us upon our consciousness. So these are the knots in the heart. So Srila Bhaktivigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj said, I was born in a Brahmin family. And because of this, I had so many ideas about what is my proper behavior as a Brahmin. But by associating with my Guru, then I experienced that he systematically cut all the knots to pieces by citing evidence from Shastra. And thereby he made me thoroughly realize the meaning of this verse. Tato du sangam utsrijya satsu sajjeta buddhiman santa evasya chindanti manovyas angam uktibi. Very important verse from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna is saying, therefore, tato dusangam utsritya. One must give up dusanga, materialistic association. Satsu sajjeta buddhiman, an intelligent person will give up materialistic association and associate with pure Vaishnavas. Why? Santa evasya chindanti. The sages, chindanti, they will cut manovya sangam, all the causes of suffering which are there, that is the contamination in my mind, uktibihi, by their powerful words. So this is how we can recognize a sadhu, because when we approach them with honor and hear carefully, their words are powerful and they perform a heart operation and cut out all the cancer of materialistic impressions which are causing us to be bound in this material world. And that is a great relief. So cutting these knots is the limitless compassion of Sri Guru. So Maharaj is saying, in my previous ashram, I only accepted prasad if it had been cooked by someone from a Brahmin family and offered to Bhagavan. And then the Brahmin served it also, not otherwise. And I maintained this practice even for 6 years while staying in the Gaudiya Math. 6 years while associating with the Gaudiya Math. So he was associating with the Gaudiya Math for 6 years while still staying outside. Said later when I joined the Math, because Srila Bhakti Madhav Gosvāmī was aware of my habits for the first 5 years when I lived in the Math, then Guru Maharaj only engaged brahmacharis who previously they were brahmanas. Before they joined the Math, they were from Brahmin families. He only engaged them in cooking and in serving the deities and serving prasad and charnamrita. So he said, just see, my Gurudev was so merciful. He did this because he understood that I was not ready to overcome that knot in the heart. So during that time, he said, during those first 5 years, I used to take prasadam alone in my room. And so Guru Maharaj arranged for one brahmachari who was a Brahmin family to bring the prasadam to my room. And I would take the prasad on the plate without a second serving. Because if I take something, then what's left, it will be my uchishta and not suitable for consumption. And also, to keep the contents of the plate pure, I used to hold the plate with one hand and have kush grass underneath my thumb. So my thumb was touching the kush grass and holding the plate. So he used to do all these Brahminical rituals, Shmata Brahmin rituals from his previous ashram. So I would take the prasad in complete silence. And if anyone called my name, then I would stop accepting prasad, thinking that they had touched me through sound. So he came from such a Brahmin family with very high standards of behavior, according to the mundane Smriti Shastra. But Mahaprasad, Vaishnavas, all of these things are transcendental. So he said, furthermore, I considered it to be degrading to put my foot on the land that belonged to an oil merchant or a saha, a vaishya, a businessman, or a goldsmith. And I would never ever accept prasadam at such places. So then, now he'll describe the history, how his Guru Maharaj cut all of the knots of identification with his previous ashram, one by one by one. So in 1955, Srila Bhaktivedanta Madhav Maharaj, he made a new mat in a rented property in Calcutta. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj, he joined their full-time service there. At that time, Srila Bhakti Mahārāja said, it is true that the Vedas advise a person to abstain from useless conversation and to maintain silence and to remember Bhagavan at the time of honoring Mahaprasadam. But the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they know that the real significance of following the statements, one should not speak while taking prasadam. The actual purport is Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam and Kirtaniya Sada Hari. One should always perform kirtan of the holy name. So always means also during prasadam. We say, Sayanamrita Pal, Radha Krishna. Now we'll take this prasadam and sing the glories of Radha and Krishna. So this is also silence. It's material silence. There's no material sound. So there is no other way to become transcendental in this age of Kali but the chanting of the holy names. So then, he said, when I heard these words from my Gurudev, then after that, I was still sitting alone. But I used to take prasadam and chant, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gauranga Jai. So then after some time, by the endless mercy of my Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Mahārāja, he said, after some time I realized that, wait a minute, all the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they used to honor Mahaprasad together. And therefore I thought, why am I depriving myself of Vaishnav Sangha? This is wrong. So then another knot was cut and I began to sit and honor Mahaprasadam with the devotees. After this, then sometimes the Vaishnavas were serving, but they were not from Brahmin families. So then this vidhi was also cut from my life. And more, I began to accept actually the transcendental nature of the Vaishnavas. And anyone who is initiated, then Achay Vishnav Shiladi Gurushu Naramati Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. If anyone has the concept that a Vaishnava belongs to a worldly caste, then Naraki Saha, that person is destined for hell. They have a hellish mentality. Why? Because Guru, the deity, the Vaishnavas, that means Vaishnavas, those who have received Diksha. Grihita Vishnu Diksha Ko Vishnu Puja Paronara Vaishnavabhito Vigya Itrasmada Vaishnavaha. It is said in the Shastra that one who has received Diksha and therefore they have received a transcendental body and they're engaged in the service of a deity, they are Vaishnav and others are not. So a person who is the Madhyam Adhikari, who realizes that at the time of Diksha, then Diksha Kale Bhakta Kare Atma Samarpan, that by the mercy of Sri Guru and Sri Krishna, a transcendental body descends and that Vaishnava is now transcendental. Then he will never see that a Vaishnava belongs to a worldly caste. This is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Haridas Thakur, you and I were in the same caste. Haridas Thakur was from a Muslim family. And Mahaprabhu is Dvijaraj, the best of Brahmanas. How can they be in the same caste? Yes. Achyuta Gotra. Actually, Mahaprabhu is himself Achyuta. Krishna. So they're in the same caste. What is their caste? Sachidananda. So then one day, a devotee came and he was offering second portions. And then I made a gesture with my hand, only this much. But then that devotee gave too much. So then, because he gave too much, I was just upset. And I got up and I left. But then I thought, oh, the Vaishnavas are the objects of our service. So he asked me, how much do you want? But because I did not want to speak. But Vaishnavas, the objects, if a Vaishnava asks me a question, then I should speak. properly. It takes precedent over all my rules and regulations from my previous ashram. So he's describing how slowly, whatever conditioning he had before, it all became dissolved by the mercy of Sri Guru. His Guru Śrīla Bhakti-Dayāta Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Now, I know that most of you don't have such rules and regulations in your life. But it may be, just maybe, that you have some other habits from your previous life which are not compatible with the Vaishnav Jivani, the Vaishnav lifestyle. So in the same way, by associating with Sri Guru and Vaishnavas, gradually we should think carefully and conform ourselves to the Vaishnav Sadachar. So then, once the devotees were all on Navadvip Parikrama, and they came to one piece of land there in Navadvip, and it was owned by an oil merchant. Now remember, he will not put his foot on the land which is owned by an oil merchant. So the devotees arrived there, and then they mixed some flat rice with water, and they added some ghee and some gur, and made a preparation, and then they put down all the plates on this land which is owned by the oil merchant. So at that time I was thinking, what should I do? And then Srila Bhaktivedanta Mahārāja, he said, I remember my Gurudev sang one song. Shri Gauda Mandala Bhumi Jeva Jani Chintamani Tada Hoy Braja Bhumi Bas. Here I am thinking that this Navadvip this land is owned by an oil merchant. But Srila Narottam Das Thakur, he's saying, if one accepts that the dust of Gauda Mandal, of Navadvip, is Chintamani, then he'll attain residence in Vrindavan. And he said, I also remember that Dāsa Bābājī Mahārāja, he said, it is impossible for the wealthiest man in the world to purchase even one particle of dust of Navadvip Dham. So then, when he was meditating in this way, he thought, what am I thinking? That I should not go on this land. So then, that vow also got destroyed, and he went and sat down, and he went to honor the prasadam. So, the pastime goes on. This chopping, it's so fascinating. So, but we've run out of time now. I'll continue tomorrow morning. So everyone, please come. Mangalatik is at 5 o'clock. And then we'll sit and chant japa for some hours together. And at the end of japa, I want to continue with some of the pastimes of Srila Bhakti-Dayāta Madhava Gosvāmī Mahārāja. Gaur Premanande Hari Sri Radha Shama Sundar Ji ki jai.